Digital Influx are a London-based EdTech company. We're offering a 12-part course for 8 to 11-year-olds to learn the basics of user experience principles and design thinking. Programs relating to STEM are important, as children should be taught how to think, not what to think. The course aims to develop their problem-solving, teamwork, and critical thinking skills, among many more. Each lesson will have short videos and games to make sure your experience is fun and memorable and fits with your own learning style. And it improves soft skills by using real-life practical examples to improve empathy. To learn more, please visit digitalinflux.com.
Interesting question, I would say. And the short answer is 100% yes. Like, absolutely. But let me elaborate a little bit. So, like the majority of the work I do is problem solving, right? If it's anything from like identifying new business opportunities to usability issues or storytelling problems, right? And I do think there's a value in if there, have some insight into how to objectively gather, insights and data, and how to define the hypothesis and fully understand the problem and draw the conclusion from like this process would be valuable for any type of profession, or even personally, I think. And it doesn't really matter what sort of role you have in society. I see these as tools, essentially. These are tools that we use to sort of better understand the root cause of a problem and sort of how to get there. And the problem could be anything. Like, yes, I'm a UX designer, so the problems I solve are, of course, UX centric, or business, or sometimes even tech. But of course, you can apply the same sort of tools and methodologies to any kind of problem. In terms of, like, if it should be a little bit more specific to, let's say, user experience and technology, which I guess is the most common way of looking at sort of user experience, is that, of course, like, technology plays a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger role in our lives, like personally and professionally. Like, we use it to sort of develop ourselves, and of course with that comes the the importance of great technology and user market and business experience, all that in one. But yeah, I definitely think it should be part of any type of education. Like, it doesn't matter what really you study.
I would say what would be very interesting at school in terms of UX would be the behavioral science parts, where you all know in that age when you're navigating through life and you're trying to understand who you are as a person. I think what would be extremely valuable in understanding the human behavior between each other and how we interact with each other, rather than assuming and casting judgments at the early age, because we are in different spaces at those ages, at that young age, that we're trying to actually find ourselves and try to understand and make a sense of the world. And I think behavior science in that aspect, try to understand your friends and the decisions and the habits that people have, and be a bit more forgiving as well. And I know people talk about empathy a lot, and I think those things can be built up when you understand that the other person, it is okay that other people think differently. It is okay that someone comes from a different background and has a different kind of mindset. So in terms of that, and then applying that into the digital products, when we are talking about cyberbullying and the ethics regarding that, combining those two together, what would it be in terms of behavior online and digitally? and having that kind of understanding, because somehow I think the lines have been very much blurred in terms of what you can say online. It's very acceptable for young kids to say what they feel and think online, but it's a different thing when they're in a space with their friends. They have that freedom to express themselves online, and there needs to be some kind of understanding and boundaries there for them as well, in terms of just understanding each other's behavior. And then applying user experience, I think the best part would that be the user research, giving them that knowledge of, instead of just thinking about things, just go out and research things. Try to find out for yourself why certain things are happening, rather than making things obvious in your mind that this is it. And have an approach that actually would cater to the digital need of user experience. So definitely, I think the behavior aspects would be a valuable asset for students to learn. And since they're trying to find themselves as well in this world that we're living in, especially at this time, I think no one is giving that a lot of attention, but they are one of the most resilient groups right now, because we think that they're in their computers or they're in their digital space and they're doing fine, but we forget that they are also a part of this. And just because they're in their world, that doesn't mean that they're not feeling the effect, and they're going to have this with them for the rest of their lives, while we are in a different age group when we're handling this differently. So yeah, that's my take on that.
The easy answer would be yes, but I think I'm going to alter the question a bit, and I think this was kind of embedded in what guys said. But I would say more than that, teaching UX in schools, that to actually kind of use UX methodologies to teach, basically, because UX in core most is what called human-centered. And when it comes to pedagogy, and this is something I'm really actually passionate about, especially when I was studying psychology, that student-centered learning, and there are some schools that actually started doing that. That because it's kind of, I don't think you don't even have to kind of look at studies to know that the current education system is failing. It doesn't work. We can't be, it doesn't, we're, everything that stimulates, in different directions. You can't just sit passively and just listen, and to kind of teacher-centered learning, basically. You have to kind of teach children how they're going to go about finding the answer, because many of this, it's kind of innate. How, when we give a child something, a baby, they want to find out for themselves. They lick it. The first thing, okay, how does it taste? How does it work? We are innately very curious, but when these systems kind of that you should sit there and listen, it's going to kind of kill that, and then you just want ready answers. When it comes to whether you're a 5-year-old, this teacher has the answer, or whether I've worked, with people that actually studied UX or even worked in UX, but still need answers. It's still like, okay, did I do this right or wrong? And so it's a way, let's say you're gonna find answers you can't Google, let's say. And the other thing is kind of, because in the other schools, in current schools, maybe a couple of people that actually studied, they're going to answer all the questions, and if you get an answer wrong, and you're going to be told off, you're not going to have the kind of you're not going to do it again. Basically, you're going to be silent the whole year. And when you work collaboratively, and in groups, and kind of look for answers, then you're going to have this confidence, to actually kind of in a group look at the problem. How do we go about solving this? I think it's going to be exactly as John said. It's going to be a tool. Basically, you can just use it not only at your work, basically everywhere. And I think that's most of it. It could be a couple of other things, but I think the whole kind of way of teaching should change at the core, because otherwise we're just going to have UX designers that don't think for themselves.
First of all, I completely agree with Moreno about how our education system is kind of, or at least what I experienced. I was someone that growing up, I was terrible at tests. It was the most stressful environment for me, but I can excel at projects and assignments and writing paper stuff. When it comes to a test environment where you have a right or wrong answer, did not go well for me. But back to the question, I think, to me, this is a bit of a tricky question, because if you look at what is UX, maybe kind of in terms of hard skills, such as being able to do user research or being able to communicate with stakeholders or wireframes and doing all the journey maps, I would say not necessarily. I mean, if you have a passion for it, yes. But I think echoing what everyone else has said in terms of the critical thinking skills, which is a lot of these what you need to become a good UX designer, I think that is absolutely essential. So things like being able to observe, watch and listen, and know what information you should look at, being able to kind of understand and analyze the information that's being presented to you, problem solving, decision making, and to be able to kind of question what you're presented with. I think these are all super important, not only for design, but also for us to evolve as a society, to be able to make decisions that benefit people, to be able to make decisions that are ethical, and so on. At the last company I worked at, we had this one interview question, and when we asked candidates, they were asked to talk about an example where they had previously challenged a question, a piece of information, either in an educational professional environment. And that was quite interesting, because we also wanted to see, do they kind of take information as the status quo and just kind of accept that, or can they have that critical thinking ability to question that, or to see actually why should this be this way? Why can it be why can it be the other way around? And I think that's really important. And we also have been kind of working on doing some workshops with different stakeholders, and we talk about this exercise of asking the 5 whys that you keep repeating, asking why, as if you're a child. But it shouldn't be kind of only limited to children. It should be something that we continue to kind of question things, and we continue to kind of think about whether what we're designing are impacting someone in a negative way, and that obviously could be intentionally or unintentionally, which is the case all the time. And in order to do that, to think about that, and then we can kind of know how we can evolve design. So I think it's really important to start teaching critical thinking skills from a very early age, and continue to encourage that behavior.
I probably would just mirror basically the same as what everyone else has said. I think everyone's covered everything pretty well. I can wholeheartedly agree with the whole view on the empathy and the behavioral science, that this is super important to teach. It's the concepts behind UX that are the important thing that we need to teach, not necessarily sort of UX itself, but certainly the concepts. I also studied psychology, and I found understanding why people will do what they do, some of the cognitive biases behind irrational behaviors, and certainly being able to use these in whatever work that we do, and to predict and mitigate for these sorts of things is incredibly helpful, and does, if you understand decision-making processes, it does make empathy a lot easier. You can understand people a lot better if you understand why they're doing what they're doing. I completely agree with the whole idea that we focus on problems, and it's the problem solving aspect rather than finding solutions immediately. The critical thinking aspect, the way we teach, I think that's all really, really important, and I think totally hits the nail on the head. I would like to sort of also add which has been touched upon a little bit, but certainly something that my background has given me is this experimental mindset, which, you know, adds into the creativity aspect. And, you know, you have to sort of be curious and test things, and most importantly, remain objective. I think we're entering a world where confidence is often more important than competence or the facts. And when you have a experimental mindset, it's the ability to know that you're wrong or say that you're wrong, and you're looking to be wrong. You're looking to prove yourself wrong. That's the approach that you take to all of your work and everything that you do. And this, you do have to understand, okay, so I am also guilty of, and we all are guilty of the sort of the confirmation bias. You know, we get results that maybe does reflect what we were thinking originally, but you look a little bit further into it. Is this statistically significant? Is this the general theme of what's coming out from what certain participants are saying? You have to keep that objective mindset and be very, very thorough on your own, thoroughly basically examine your own opinions and your own biases. And I think that side of UX is super important, certainly when conducting research. But I think as a general approach, certainly coming into the type of pod that we're coming into at the moment, I think it's a good thing that children should be taught.